Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and I figured right before the pre-release that I'm getting super amped up for, mostly with Mountain Dew, not sponsored, I figured I might as well cover Chapter 6. Been out for like a day or two, so, why not? And remember, this is Chapter 6 out of 12. Kinda implies that it used to be two sets, and then they chose to combine it and just kinda made it work, don't you think? But hey, this story is awesome because Martha Wells is awesome, to an extent. Little asterisk there. So hey, the more story, the merrier, right? So let's jump right in. This one starts from Teferi's point of view, because remember, they were going to go fly the Weatherlight to go find him. I don't remember why. They did state why. I just don't remember it. So Teferi is traveling through the Tivin Desert, or Tivan, or Tivan, or I don't know. It's probably Tivin, and it's probably right next to the Shivan Reef coast thing place. I could probably take a second glance at that map at some point. It's on my to-do list. So the Tivin area is different than the Shivan area. The Shivan is where the Shivan elves live, and they make delicious cookies, and then the Skinwitch scouts sell them door to door. Skinwitches, of course, love the forest, love camping. We learned that in chapter 2, I think. So anyway, his daughter's name is Nyambi, and she's kind of making fun of the whole trip. I guess they've been there before, and he says that he's trying to solve a puzzle. The way they put it was, it's a giant block of stone partially concealed by a natural plateau. Travelers from Femeref who passed by on nearby trade routes always assumed that it was an ancient ruin. And it is ancient, but it's younger than Teferi. So I don't know what he's trying to solve. Like, who built it? Like, did he just miss it? Like, he was there almost, maybe, sort of. But it does seem like he knows what he's doing, because when they get there, he uses his, like, little magic staff thing to make the, like, sand get out of the way, and it opens up, like, this descending staircase down into this monument thing. Now, when they get near it, Nyambi's, like, super stressing, and he's like, you know what, you're kind of good to be cautioned, because this place is dangerous as crap. So, the first hint we get about what they're doing there is she says, you know he's not really here, right? And then Teferi replies, well, he's here in spirit, and that's close enough, believe me. $10 says it's the former captain of the Weatherlight. So the least believable thing in this entire story is the very next statement, where it says that sand was scraping on his boot soles. Who the hell wears boots in the desert? And of course, on the box art, Teferi looks like Charlie Murphy, and now, Charlie Murphy and boots, and now I got the whole Dave Chappelle skit with the boots on the couch in my head, and just, I can't take this story seriously now. The other chapters I clearly took very seriously. So it says Nyambi is 50 years old, and Teferi had been 50 for more than a few decades now. Yeah, I get it was a temporal thing, he got into like a time dilation thing, but here's the thing, okay? You'd still have metabolism, you'd still have to like eat food and expend energy at approximately 2,500 calories per day. If it was truly a time anomaly, it should take him 5 minutes to say one word. Like, he should be experiencing time at a slower rate. That and the boots, I'm never going to get past it. I just can't. They could literally have like Dom DeLuise show up and sing show tunes in the middle of the monument, and the boots and the time dilation effect and the anti-aging would still be the least believable part of this story. So it says, once they're in the main hall or whatever of this monument, statue, underground, wherever the heck they are, Teferi had already deciphered over the years all the writing on the walls, and it was illuminated like magic writing, I think, or something like that. But he suspected it was just a trap meant to waste somebody's time if they were to break into the monument. It just all means nothing. Pretty clever, actually. It's probably just like the terms of service from like Microsoft Word or something, and they just like put it into hieroglyphics. So like 5 years later, he's like, this is a giant waste of time. So they've been there enough times that a lot of the traps in the monument, which, okay, clearly this was not meant to be like a museum. The monument, I don't know, like usually people visit a monument. This is more like a trap-tastic trap fest. But yeah, they don't really know if they got them all, so they're, kind of treading lightly. So all of a sudden something comes out of the dark, just this big blur, and Teferi reacts, just instinctively, like, boom, just blasts the living crap out of it with some kind of random blast spell, I guess. But then it's also like a slow time blast spell, because they said that they could just barely see the little parts and the pieces and the cogs just flying away from the blast zone. An explosion spell that automatically slows down time so you can watch the explosion in slow motion. That's my kind of thing right there. By the way, it was some kind of automaton. It was like 8 feet tall. So he just blew that thing straight to hell, and Nyambi's like, is it safe now? Yeah, it's in pieces, sister. And he's just like, yeah, just don't touch it. Yeah, temporal stuff. Everybody loves temporal magic. So she's like, hey, that thing looks familiar. And he's like, yeah, I think I destroyed it the last time we were here. I guess they like repair each other and rebuild each other. I'm sure that's a card. Oh, yeah, it actually says it's Mishra's self-replicator. Wonderful. So then there's 3 corridors, because there's always 3 corridors, because it's basically let's make a deal. I'm old. And it says 2 were always traps, but they changed every time. So that's fun. So Teferi read the floating, shifting glyphs that revealed the right passage, which is, some kind of test. And then he triggered and disarmed the death light from the giant eye around the first bend. Classic D&D. And with that done, he and Nyambi were able to proceed to the Chamber of Poisoned Needles. I've got an idea. Go down the one that's not trapped. Like, do they really have to disarm both? Like, that, I don't get that. So as they were very carefully making their way around the floating, I guess probably time-stalled, whatever he does, phasing or whatever, poison needle traps, he says, hey, Nyambi, remember the time there was a mechanical spider? And she's like, yes, every time I have a nightmare. So they got to the next chamber, and it says, all along the upper part of the walls, hundreds of feet up, round doorways for chambers and passageways. They were glowing or they were dark or whatever, but they were all 100% distractions. Another, time waster trap. It's just a delaying tactic. Like, he had personally checked them all out, and they all, I guess, went nowhere, were empty or whatever. So good thing he doesn't really age. So apparently the grid of squares at the center of the center platform, reached by a narrow bridge, was the real key to the puzzle. Or maybe the floating blocks were the key. He's not 100% sure, but he did spend a lot of time narrowing it down. So they're pretty sure it's one of the two, but they've never proceeded further than this particular spot, I guess. But Nyambi had a new theory about the blocks, and that's why they were there. They're going to try it out. She probably just looked up the solution online, watched a YouTube playthrough. So Nyambi's got pen and paper, and she's ready to write all kinds of stuff down. And the second that Teferi steps onto the center platform, all the floating blocks that are just randomly floating around converged and tried to smash him. And so she tells him, hey, try 6 from the left, 4 from the top down. Whatever that means. So he hopped over and hit the sequence with his staff, and nothing happened. I don't know if there's like a clone of the things, or I don't quite picture what's going on here. So just to make matters harder, when they're trying all different sequences after sequences and theories and mathematical whatever, 2 more automaton guards came in, and one of them he froze in time because he's cheap like that, and the other he tipped off the platform with some quick staff work, because sometimes you got to make that melee attack. And so they kept trying different sequences, I guess, on some kind of block. I still don't really understand this puzzle. And yeah, it had been about an hour. Nyambi's just like, oh my God, let's just give up. So Nyambi finally says, okay, I think I was wrong. It's not a mathematical problem, or if it is, it isn't the floating block set or the key. They're just here to try to crush us. So Teferi's like, you know what? Like, I'm so old. Any kind of little setback is just so temporary, not on my radar, whatever. Want to bail? Let's bail. Let's get out of here. And outside, they decide to play the pronoun game. Why would he make it so hard, Nyambi said, frustrated. He must have known you would need it someday. And he can't play the pronoun game without playing another pronoun game, so Teferi says he's protecting it from the Phyrexians and the demons and their mages and everyone else who might want it for the raw power locked inside. It's clearly either like Mishra or Urza, or I think that's both of them. Oh, and it looks like we have our answer. So Nyambi's like, yeah, it's ridiculous. Why did he make it so hard? We don't know that for sure, blah, 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 blah. And Teferi finally replies, Urza, ooh, it's Urza, didn't have friends, not like you and I have friends. He had experimental subjects, and those just powerful enough that he considered them sentient beings, if not actually people. But he was what we had at the time. So, all of a sudden, the weather light goes flying overhead, because of course they knew exactly where to find him in the middle of a desert walking in the middle of nowhere. So Nyambi's like, oh, is that here for you or whatever? And he's like, oh yes, it's my past, catching up with me. Well, geez, just be more poetic, why don't you? So everybody jumps down off the ship with a ladder or whatever, and Jorah tells him, hey, Gideon and Liliana are planeswalkers. And then in the greatest line ever, Teferi replies, oh, I used to do that. Remember, he lost his spark, you remember? I remember. Pepperidge Farms remembers. So he introduces Nyambi and says, this is my daughter. And of course, because he's comic relief Raph says, I'm sorry, your daughter. So Nyambi explains, my father used to be an immortal. He ages very slowly. I've been catching up to him for years. I don't think that's the proper explanation. I'm not that familiar with Teferi's like origin story or whatever, but I do know that planeswalkers originally were immortal, I'm pretty sure, but like Liliana started aging immediately after the mending. So, yeah. Why is Teferi the only one? Oh, what a coincidence. He knows time magic. I mean, come on, people. So they're all chilling and keeping it polite and making introductions, all that, and then he's like, oh, and to what do I owe this visit? And just straight up, Jorah's like, we're going to go kill Belzenlock, and we need a time mage to help us get into his stronghold. And Teferi's like, oh, a time mage. And you think I might know a likely one? And she's like, I swear to God, Teferi, I'm so done with your crap already. We need your help. So he gets a little serious and he's like, okay, we're not out camping in the desert because that's what we do for fun. We're doing something very important. And Liliana just goes, oh, like what? That ancient rune over there? I guess it really does look ancient because he keeps correcting everybody. No, it's not ancient. Like, it was built in my lifetime. It's younger than I am. So Gideon kind of like was getting good vibes off this Teferi guy. He seemed nice. He seemed like he would help. So the fact that he's declining kind of implies that, yeah, it really is really important. So, just like a bad JRPG, Gideon's like, okay, we'll help you with your quest first, and then you can join our party and help us with ours. Seriously, that's like every JRPG ever. So Teferi's like, you think you even can help? Because like, it's a really complicated puzzle, and they're just like, let us try, what the hell. So finally, after a little back and forth, he's like, okay, fine. Do you know the story of Zalfir? And Shanna's like, I do, even though that's probably not who he was talking to. And then because Raph is, know-it-all Mr. Comedy, super polite in social situations guy, he says, oh yeah, Zalfir, yeah, it removed itself from Dominaria to get away from the Phyrexian invasion. And then Shanna's like, okay, that's not exactly quite the story that I heard. And Liliana looks really impatient. So Gideon says, okay, what is the story then, allegedly? And he asks Teferi because, he was honestly probably there. So he says, well, at the time of the invasion, Zalfir was the most advanced nation on Dominaria. Oh god, it's frickin' Atlantis, isn't it? That's right, Zalfir. Its powerful magic, its technology, and its military might meant it could take the brunt of the Phyrexian attack. Zalfir, come for the sight, stay because we're no longer in this plane. Book your hotels now. So apparently Urza had actually intended for it to take the brunt of the attack because I guess they could take it. And the leaders of Zalfir thought they would triumph, but Teferi says he knew better. I guess Teferi actually was from there. So he says, yeah, I just wanted to spare my people in my homeland from a war that I knew would destroy them. So I created a time rift and phased Zalfir partially out of the plane. I thought that in the wiki page it said that he had already phased it back. In fact, I'm pretty sure that he phased out the whole continent and then gave up his spark to bring it back or something like that. Well, I guess it's not back yet because he says the Phyrexians couldn't reach it, but Zalfirans couldn't reach the rest of Dominaria either. They still can't. Calling it right now. Okay, yes, I watch a lot of sci-fi, but come on. Doctor Who, The Moment? I mean, come on. This is the most Harry Potter story so far yet. If they have a time turner, I'm giving up on it. So, obviously, depending upon who was inside Zalfir and who wasn't at the time, he split up families and stuff. And as Nyambi puts it, it made Father very unpopular in our folklore for some time. And Shanna just nods and says, oh, I thought he might be that Teferi. How many people are named Teferi? Oh, apparently we're having a bit of a never-ending story situation here because Joyra clearly heard me, and she explains he did the same to the land of Shiv, but I told you there was a Shiv. I think I said Shivan, but whatever. Later, he was able to repair the rift and return Shiv to this plane. That's how he lost his Planeswalker spark. So, oh, this guy's dumb. He phased out an entire continent, city, land, whatever. They don't really specify the size. And then he had to give up his Planeswalker spark to bring it back. And then either before or after that, honestly doesn't even matter, he phased out all of Zalfir. And now he can't bring it back. Okay, making the same mistake twice, come on. Don't cast a magic spell that's supposed to be temporary if you're not sure you can undo it. Everybody knows that. So it's kind of implied that when he lost his Planeswalker spark, it lowered his overall magic abilities, so then he wasn't able to phase Zalfir back. So I guess he phased it out before he lost his spark, which means he probably should have brought it back before giving up his Planeswalker spark to phase back in Shiv. Or he should just stop phasing crap out. Seriously, I wasn't joking when I said that is his answer to everything, apparently. So they're all like, okay, yeah, I haven't been sitting on my hands here. We got a plan. So Urza left behind some, devices, magic artifacts, whatever, that could be of some help in repairing a time rift. You know, I have a 0% accuracy on my predictions so far in the story, so I'm gonna go for the long shot here and say that it's gonna be Urza's time tape, okay? And it's gonna be a roll of duct tape, and you put it on a time rift to like fix time. So I guess we'll have to see if I'm right in the second half, because this is getting pretty long here, and we're only about halfway through. So have fun at the pre-release, although if you manage to watch this before the pre-release, that'd be some. I think it'll probably go live before it, so good luck with that, and I'll see you guys next video.